All right, Shalom. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakak Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth. Shalom to the hopeful elect. I'm back with another quick lesson through the Holy Spirit of the Rakak Kwadash. How the USA became the global dumping ground for toxic, contaminated food. Okay? So you have the wicked banking elite. They're trying to unalive everybody at this point. They're not even hiding it anymore. All right? So let's get into it.
So this is why the United States of America is the global dumping ground of toxic food. Let me explain. As a food scientist, you know I own and run a multiple mass spec instrument laboratory. I'm the author of Food Forensics, which hit #1 science category on Amazon at one point. And so I know about the limits of contaminants in, let's say, the EU versus Canada versus Japan versus the United States and other countries as well. And so when you talk about common contaminants of food, such as heavy metals or glyphosate or other pesticides, or even dioxins and PCBs, which go together normally into animal-derived products and so on, milk, cheese, eggs, meat, that kind of thing. So it turns out that the most stringent standards are in the EU, and then Canada and Japan and even Taiwan, places like that. The lack of standards is what's found in the United States. So, for example, did you know that heavy metals, including mercury, that there is no legal limit under the FDA for heavy metals beyond under 10 parts per million. 10 parts per million. So you could have 9 parts per million of lead, which is extremely toxic. I mean, that's insane. Or even mercury. You could have 5 parts per million mercury, which would cause absolute brain damage. And that is perfectly legal according to the FDA. Yeah, amazing, right? It's also perfectly legal under the USDA. And even worse, it's allowed under USDA organic. So when you go to the grocery store and you see an organic label, you might assume, well, this is clean. This has been certified clean by the USDA, by the federal government. Yeah, the same federal government that just granted total legal immunity to Bayer over glyphosate. You think they care about the cleanliness of your food? Are you?
Come on, man. All right? Even if we try to eat organic, so-called, all right, it's still impure. You know? Israel will eat their food defiled amongst the Gentiles, right? This is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 4, right? Going straight to the point. Okay. Ezekiel 4 and 12, the point is in 13. And it reads, "And thou shalt eat it as barley cakes, and thou shalt make it with dung that cometh out of man in their sight." All right. And they're literally making meat mixed with human feces. I remember Kill Gates, he was talking about that, making burgers out of human dung, and then you have this laboratory GMO created, meat or whatnot. So there's no telling, all right, what's really in the food. Okay. But we know that it's defiled. Verse 13. "And the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, said, Even thus shall the children of Israel eat their defiled bread amongst the Gentiles, whether I will drive them." All right. So our bread, our food, our water, okay, would be defiled. Okay. And in this captivity, we're unable to keep our dietary laws, our purity laws properly. Okay. Because we're in captivity. Okay, so like I said, this is truly hell that we're under right here, man. Everything that we consume on a daily basis is all defiled. It's tainted. All right, that's why the scriptures say, got to get that too. Micah 2 and how this is not your rest. Micah 2 and 10. And it reads, it says, "Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted." Okay? Because it is polluted, it shall destroy you even with a sore destruction. So everything about America, Babylon the Great, is polluted. Okay, from the air, from the water, from the food, from the indoctrination that they put on the people, these philosophies. Okay, it's all polluted to bring you to destruction. All right, let's go back.
Kidding me? In fact, there's no limit of glyphosate either in the food, even inorganic. See, look, let me back up because I know some of you don't believe me. Like, wait a second, what are you saying? There's no limit of glyphosate or lead or mercury under organic labeling? There's no limit? Yeah, not only is there no limit, there's not even any testing under organic. The USDA doesn't even test anything for metals. I mean, this is not part of the organic certification, is what I'm saying. I'm sure from time to time they probably test something, but they don't test foods that are labeled organic for any kind of compliance of low glyphosate or low metals or low lead or low mercury, anything like that. That is not a requirement and it doesn't happen. So you can buy something that's off the shelf organic. It could have 10 parts per million lead in it. It could have 1,000 parts per million of glyphosate on it, like organic wheat. It could. Even though the farmer isn't supposed to spray glyphosate on the wheat, because that's not allowed under organic farming. Nobody tests the wheat. USDA doesn't test it. The organic certifiers don't test it. The farmer doesn't test it. So who knows? Who knows?
Yes. So they all know what they're doing. All right. This is the wicked, man. Are you surprised? This is Psalm 36 and verse 4. Okay. They don't know how to be righteous. Psalms 36 and 4. Let me pull this up real quick. All right. Psalms 36 and 4. And it reads, He devises mischief upon his bed. He setteth himself in a way that is not good. He abhorreth not evil. All right. They can't help it to be wicked. Okay. NLT, they lie awake at night hatching sinful plots. Their actions are never good. They make no attempt to turn from evil. You see it? So it's all by design. This is why we got to get the fuck out of here, man. You
think that if a farmer could make extra money by drying the organic wheat faster by spraying glyphosate on the wheat, do you think that all farmers will do the right thing and operate with integrity and make less money and not spray glyphosate on it? Well, probably that's true with many farmers, maybe the majority of farmers, I would hope, because farmers tend to be good people overall, especially the small farmers. But the corporate farmers are probably going to say, who's going to know? Let's spray it with glyphosate. It'll dry faster. We can harvest it sooner. We can avoid the incoming rain. We won't have crop loss, etc. So they're going to spray it. Nobody's going to know. Except, we will know. I mean, my company will know. Because we do the lab testing for glyphosate meticulously across all of our raw materials that are agricultural, across all of our products, healthrangerstore.com. We test for glyphosate. We've done so for, over a decade. And we'll continue to do so. But does Whole Foods test for glyphosate? No. I mean, not. Maybe they spot check. I doubt it. But they certainly don't test all the products they sell. Not a chance. I mean, that's laughable. I mean, does your local grocery store test for glyphosate on the products they sell? No, of course they don't. They don't have that kind of extra money and bandwidth to test everything they sell for glyphosate. Are you kidding me? Or heavy metals or anything like that. So they're selling a product on their shelves that has the organic label on it which is really, it's advertising that this is clean. At least that's the way I think most consumers understand that. They think that that means it's clean. It doesn't mean that at all. What it actually means is that it was not tested for glyphosate. It was not tested for heavy metals. It was not tested for dioxins. It doesn't even have to be tested for certain types of microbiology or other contaminants. So we have a food supply in America that is a dumping ground for the world, because see, if there's a grower in Mexico or India or Turkey that's producing some kind of food, let's say, I don't know, let's say it's like rice from India. If that rice, if they test it themselves, which is rare, by the way, if they test it themselves, which is rare, by the way, if that test shows that their rice is too contaminated for the EU, because the EU has strict limits on things like arsenic and cadmium in rice, then they just dump it to the United States. Very simple. The U.S. is the food toilet of the world. It's the dumping ground.
God damn, man. This is crazy, babe. But this whole thing is based off of deception. That's all it is. So our scriptures say, never trust thy enemy. All right? This is why people are dying even more now. All right? You had those jabs. Okay? You got the toxic food, the chemtrails in the sky, the arsenic and fluoride in the water, GMO foods. Okay, so everywhere you turn, all right, you can't escape this thing, man. All right? This is why you got to watch what you eat. That's why I wanted to do this lesson, because it's literally, war on your health. Nowadays, you just can't eat anything. All right? You got to be very strategic how you eat. Okay? Because, like I said, these wicked banking elite, these Edomites, these devils, all right, they're trying to unalive everybody. They don't even care. They're not hiding it. All right? And it's just obvious at this point.
Anything that's heavily contaminated, these food producers around the world, they know the secret. Like, nobody will test it in the U.S. Not the retailer, not Amazon.com, not the grocery store, not the FDA, not the USDA, not the EPA. Nobody will test it. So they ship the food to the U.S. And then, that gets bought by whatever supplement manufacturers or grocery stores or, processed food makers, whatever. And it ends up in the, gluten-free, crackers made with rice with extra arsenic. It's true. It's true. It's true.
Yeah, let me grab something real quick. And Sirach 37. Okay, this is Sirach 37, or Ecclesiastes chapter 37 and verse 29. Okay, I'll start at 28. It says, "For all things are not profitable for all men, neither have every soul pleasure in everything," right? "Be not insatiable in any dainty thing, nor too greedy upon meats," right? "For excess of meats bringeth sickness, and satiety will turn into choler. By satiety have many perished, but he that taketh heed prolong his life," right? This is why you got to watch what you eat, watch your, your meat protein consumption, especially where you're getting it from. If you can, I'm just putting this out there. If you can, try to get your protein from actual farm, from the source that don't do the antibiotics and the fucking, the jabs and the, all the madness that they're putting in the food right now. Okay, let me just pull this in the GNT. See what we get from Sirach 37. Because this whole society pursuing the Micah 2 and 10 as we read is just is one big, snare, trap, So this is Sirach 37. What verse was that again? That was verse 28 on down. This is in the GNT, Sirach 37 and verse 28. It says, all food doesn't agree with everyone, and everyone doesn't like the same kinds of food. Don't feel that you just have to have all sorts of fancy food, and don't be a glutton over any food, right? And we live in a gluttonous society. All right, people will eat any and everything. And you wonder why these people are dying and they look the way they look, you know, with all these different health complications and whatnot, you know. If you eat too much, you'll get sick. If you do it all the time, you'll always have stomach trouble, right? Gut all messed up, you know. It says gluttony has been the death of many people. Avoid it and live longer, right? So yeah, a lot of problems that people have health-wise comes from this food that they consume. All right, and we'll get more into that in a minute here, right? But let's play a little bit more. You know, just wanted to put this out there, man. All right.
And then you wonder why the American people are the least healthy people in the world,
There you go.
with the worst rates of obesity and cancer and type 2 diabetes, etc. It's not just the fact that the food is heavily processed and nutrient depleted. It's because it's contaminated by choice. In other words, there was a choice to send it to America because it's contaminated, because it would be illegal to sell that food in Japan or even Canada. Those of you listening from Canada, I know you hate your government, and I don't blame you, but at least the one thing your government has is more strict limits on contaminants in food, you know? Whereas in the United States, it's anything goes. Buyer beware. I mean, hey, in the U.S., they just granted total legal immunity to the glyphosate chemical companies. They can mass poison you with glyphosate, and you can't even sue anymore. Imagine that.
Yeah, I want to get into that too. All right, because that's wicked. All right, but everything that people consume here in America, people have no idea what the hell is in the food. That's how bad it's gotten. Right, and I'm gonna come back to this point he made that you can't even sue these companies for poisoning you. Right, but I want to read this first. Right on the right here. This is from the newstarget.com. It says the ultra processed food genocide. The ultra-processed food genocide, how globalist corporations are poisoning humanity for profit and depopulation, right? They're not hiding it. Let's just go ahead and summarize it real quick. Okay? Bear with me. Let's see what we get out of it. All right, it's all for profit. It's all for depopulation. All right, to reduce the Earth's population. What was the goal? To from 7 billion to 500 million or something like that. Okay, let's see what we got from it. Why is it not pulling up? Let's see. Bear with me 1 second. Is it not going to pull up? I guess it's not going to pull up. We'll read a little bit then. All right. It says ultra-processed foods linked to higher risk of heart disease and early death. See? It says a new consensus statement from the European Society of Cardiology, published in the European Heart Journal on May 10, 2026, has linked high consumption of ultra-processed foods to increased risk of heart disease, atrial fibrillation, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, and cardiovascular death. The report combines findings from all currently available research on UPFs and cardiovascular disease, according to a Science Daily report. Researchers stated that the growing evidence links high UPF intake to obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, chronic kidney disease, and death related to cardiovascular conditions, man. This is all from the food, man, that people eat on a daily basis, right? Across Europe. All right, yeah, so that's the point there. Everything that we're listening to here, right? Now, let's make the point about how, as you were saying, you can't even sue these companies for poisoning. Let me just play that again, right? That quick part. This is crazy. Crazy shit, man.
Contaminated by choice. In other words, there was a choice to send it to America because it's contaminated, because it would be illegal to sell that food in Japan or even Canada. Those of you listening from Canada, I know you hate your government, and I don't blame you, but at least the one thing your government has is more strict limits on contaminants in food, you know? Whereas in the United States, it's anything goes. Buyer beware. I mean, hey, in the U.S., they just granted total legal immunity to the glyphosate chemical companies. They can mass poison you with glyphosate, and you can't even sue anymore. Imagine that.
Right. That's Psalm, real quick. That's Psalm 73. Right? They're not in trouble as other men. You know? Psalm 73 and verses 4 and 5. I start at 3. Psalm 73 and 3. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. For there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. So they're not bound by any laws. They can do what they want. Right? So here it is. They're straight up poisoning the masses, and nothing can be done to them. You can't sue them. You can't do shit. Right? So if these people are not the wicked, then we're easy. All right? Who are they? We're easy, right? Check this out. Just to add on to that point. So it says, Scottish sides with Monsanto, you can't sue for your cancer.
Today, the Supreme Court handed Bayer and Monsanto a major victory. In a 7-2 decision, the court ruled that the Americans who were harmed by Roundup, the people who have cancer because of their product, can no longer sue the company for failing to warn them about the risks. This is a huge win for Big Poison and a devastating blow to the people who were harmed by one of the most widely used weed killers in the world. Joining me now is Stacey Malkin. She is the co-founder and editor of U.S. Right to Know, an investigative nonprofit that has spent years digging into pesticides, the food industry, and the influence large corporations have over government regulators. She's been following the Roundup lawsuits from the beginning. Stacey, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Kim.
Well, this is a devastating blow, not good news. I first want to point out that the vote was interesting because it was a 7-2 split and it wasn't along party lines, right? We've got the 7 justices who ruled basically for Bayer and Monsanto were Chief Justice John Roberts, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. And the dissenting 2 judges were Ketanji Brown Jackson and Neil Gorsuch. So definitely not at all along party lines whatsoever. But what in the world, what was this ruling about? And is there hope? I mean, I think that's the big question. Is there hope in the future going forward? I mean, this was a SCOTUS ruling. So what does this mean exactly? What did they rule? What did they decide?
Let me grab a scripture real fast before we go back. As we just read that Psalm 73 and verse 5, they are in trouble. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men, right? Zechariah 11 and 5. All right. So let's pull up. Here we go. Zechariah 11 and 5. And it reads, whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty, right? And I wanted to go to this one because that's exactly what's happening here. All right. The possessors are who? The Edomites, the elite. Okay. And what are they doing? They're slaying the people through poisoning of the food supply. All right. The water, the air, the food, GMOs, these jabs, and whatever else they're putting in this damn food, right? Right? And it says they hold themselves not guilty. They're not charged with these crimes. They got immunity, right? You can't sue them for poisoning you if you get cancer, you know? That's why it says in Isaiah, the 10th chapter, right? That's those unjust laws and decrees, right? Isaiah 10:1, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees and that right grievousness which they have prescribed, right? They have immunity, man. They can get away. There's nothing you can do. You see? And this is all wicked, right?
Well, I think first of all that pesticide industry lobbyists and profiteers and their friends in high places in the Trump administration are probably popping the champagne corks today. And as you said, who's losing is tens of thousands of Americans with cancer who are trying to get accountability through the courts. So what the Supreme Court ruled was that federal law preempts lawsuits brought by cancer victims who say that companies failed to warn them about cancer in cases where EPA says it doesn't cause cancer. And so it was a huge win for industry. I think it's going to be, for the whole pesticide industry, not just Bayer, who now can say, well, EPA says it's safe, so therefore there's no accountability through the courts for people who get cancer through these products. And that's extremely problematic for lots of reasons. We can talk more about the science.
Yeah.
But I do want to point out on your point that it wasn't a partisan decision. That's true, and that's curious. But it has been quite partisan in federal government, the White House pushing for this, basically, because the Trump administration twice, last administration and this one, sided with Bayer, saying that people should not be allowed to sue them in state courts. But both the Biden and Obama administrations took the opposite view, that federal law should essentially be a floor, and if states wanted to require cancer warnings or other science reviews, or more up-to-date science reviews or opinions on cancer, that they could in fact require warnings, and that people would have a right to address grievances with companies about.
Wow, isn't that weird? I mean, isn't that weird right there that it was the Democrats, right? We always think it's
Yeah,
Republicans.
so this is all wicked, man. All right? You're hearing about how if you purchase organic products, it's not even organic. All right? So there's no way around this shit, man. You know? Let me just add on to this too. I saw this some time back. This is from undark.org. It says a possible connection between mental illness and diet. You see that? This is why people are bugged the fuck out. You know, all types of psychological issues, things like that, because of the food that they're consuming. And this is all by design. The chemicals that they got in the food, the additives, the preservatives, okay? All of that. It's a decline on health. It says, although the evidence is limited, some psychiatrists are using ketogenic diets to treat psychiatric disorders, right? We're not going to read all of that. Let me see if I can get the summary to work on this one. If it don't, we'll move on. Let's see if we just get something from it, if it's going to summarize it or not. Let's see what we got. Let's see, summarize the page. Shit. I guess it's not working, huh? They're not even pulling up. All right, well, hey, if it don't work, then you get the point. For those just watching this video, you understand what's going on. All right? We're not going to read all of that. Okay? But of course, there's a connection between mental illness and diet. You better believe that. All right? So anyway, let's move on here. Just want to make these points about the war on your health. This is why you have to be very particular on what you consume, all right? Because there's a war on your health. These devils are trying to unalive your ass, man. So you got to be on point on what you eat, right? This is Sirach 30. and 25, and it reads, it says, a cheerful and good heart will have care of his meat and diet, right? You care about yourself, all right, your longevity, your well-being, then you're gonna have care of your meat and diet. You're gonna watch what the hell you eat. You know, you're gonna have a regimen to the best of your ability. Okay, you're gonna take care of yourself. You know, you can continue to pray to Yahweh Shem Shai. All right, that you have longevity, that you continue to fight the good fight of faith, man. Because hey, these devils are trying to take your ass out. All right, and all this stuff that we just saw here is ridiculous. All right, but this is why Yahweh Shai is gonna have the vengeance on our behalf. All right, that's why this shit has to go, because it says in what did Yahweh Shai said, if the Lord didn't shorten the days, Matthew why the hell my M ain't working? This always does that. Let me see. Matthew, how can I pull it up? Let's pull it up here. All right. Matthew 24. Okay. Matthew 24 and 22. And it reads, and except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be short. Exactly. So if things weren't moving as fast as they're moving now, no flesh would be saved, man. We got to get out of here. How are we supposed to survive this? You know, we got to eat the food. We got to drink water. We got to brave the air. All right. So this man is really the devil that the Bible speaks of, man. We got to get out of here. Right. Sirach 38. Pull this up. Sirach 38 and yeah, I just wanted to hit this point here. Sirach 38 and 4. The Lord, Yahweh Shemir Shai, created medicines out of the earth, and he that is wise will not abhor them. Right? So the Lord created the natural herbs, okay, out of the earth. Okay, the different homeopathic medicines, the natural herbs, oils, the plants from the earth, the fruits, the tree barks, okay, the different things that bring forth healing to the body, the natural remedies. Okay, he created these things from the earth, so you got to get hip. You know, you got to get on your garlic and your ginger and your turmeric. You know, all those different herbs, dandelion root, marshmallow root. You know, just things I'm thinking off the top of my head. You know, and this is not medical advice. You know, but you got to get on these things. You got to do your research. Get hip, man, because these things can fight. They can combat a lot of this shit that Esau is pushing upon the public. This poison that he's putting on the people. You know, so these are the things that I'm just, I was thinking about, man. Right, but we got to get the fuck out of here, man. Point blank, period. You know, be wise in what you consume. Shalom.